I flew on a Douglas DC-8. The DC-8 is one of the world's first jet airliners, developed in the 1950s, and was Douglas's answer to the Boeing 707. Originally, the DC-8 was designed to meet the U.S. Air Force's requirements for a jet-powered tanker, but when that contract went to Boeing's KC-135, Douglas continued to develop the DC-8 into a family of airliners. Although the 707 had a bit of a head start, a total of 556 DC-8s were built from 1958 to 1972, flying with carriers all over the world. Throughout the 1980s, 110 DC-8s were re-engined with more fuel-efficient CFM56s, which became the DC-8-70 series. Boeing, on the other hand, never pursued a re-engineering program for the civilian 707, not wanting to cannibalize 757 and 767 sales. Because of that, not to mention being sturdy Douglas airframes, many DC-8s continue to fly into the 2000s and 2010s. Today, at least 3 DC-8s are still in service, one in Africa with Transair Congo service, and another with Peruvian carrier Skybus Jet Cargo. The third of those DC-8s belongs to Samaritan's Purse, a Christian humanitarian relief organization, and is based out of Greensboro, North Carolina. Samaritan's Purse has a fleet of about 24 aircraft that are based all around the world to help deliver aid. The DC-8 was their first long-range, large cargo aircraft, and entered service with them in 2016. Since then, it's flown over 200 humanitarian missions. In addition to being the last American-registered DC-8, the plane is also the last DC-8 Combi aircraft still flying, able to carry 10 pallets of cargo with 32 passenger seats in the back. Those seats would typically be occupied by medical specialists or Samaritan's Purse personnel. In 2023, their cargo fleet grew with the addition of a 757, and earlier this month, they also took delivery of a 767-300 freighter. The addition of the 767 will hugely improve the organization's airlift capabilities, but this sadly means the DC-8 will be officially retired at the end of 2025. However, as a bit of a send-off, the DC-8 was planned to make appearances at a couple air shows throughout the year, and that's where the title of this video comes in. Back in April 2024, Samaritan's Purse sent both the DC-8 and the 757 to Calgary, Canada. They brought in one of their emergency field hospitals to be based at their Calgary facility, which would be kept ready to deploy to disaster areas by Samaritan's Purse Canada. I was there to film that whole visit because seeing a DC-8 right at my home airport was an exceptionally rare event. The video itself turned out pretty well, but more importantly, it got the attention of some of the fine folks at Samaritan's Purse. I ended up connecting with some of their aviation team members, and, well, seeing as this DC-8 is a Combi, and the last one that can carry passengers, I had to ask if there was any way I could join them on a flight. Fast forward back to this year, and Samaritan's Purse very generously let me come along on one of those airshow flights, specifically to the Dayton Airshow in Ohio. So, in the middle of June, I got myself over to Greensboro, North Carolina for this genuinely once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I have so many people to thank for making this happen, and I'll save that for the end of the video. The Samaritan's Purse Airlift Response Center is located here at the Piedmont Triad International Airport, or PTI, and opened in 2023. I arrived here a day before the flight to get an up-close look at the facility and their airplanes, and I also had a chance to talk with some of their Mission Aviation Services team.
So this is the Samaritan's Purse Airlift Response Center, and it's named because that's exactly what we do. We respond to crisis around the world to share the hope and love of Jesus, helping in Jesus' name. We're blessed to have some heavy airlift aircraft. We have the mighty DC-8, born in 1968, and the 757 as a complement. We use those planes to take pallets of cargo anywhere in the world that needs certain supplies. We say we deliver the right thing to the right place at the right time based on God's plan.
The DC-8 in question is registered as November 782 Sierra Papa. As mentioned, it was manufactured in 1968, making it over 56 years old. Not that you'd think that looking at it. Originally built for Finnair as a DC-8-62 convertible freighter, it flew with them from 1969 until 1981 when it was purchased by the French Air Force. It was then converted into a DC-8-72, with 4 Pratt & Whitney GT3Ds swapped out for 4 CFM56s. The French Air Force flew it until 2004, and it was then purchased by American carrier Air Transport International, or ATI, in 2005. ATI flew the plane in the same Combi configuration you see today, keeping just the 32 seats in the back, until it was retired from service in 2013. Samaritan's Purse then purchased the airplane in 2015, and it entered service with them the following year. Almost immediately after getting the sign-off from the FAA, it flew to Ecuador on its first mission following an earthquake there.
It's called a Combi because it can take a combination of cargo and passengers. So we can take 10 pallets of cargo, we call them cookie sheets, and it can also take 32 passengers. So what makes that unique is we could take an emergency field hospital, arrive at a location, and also have the doctors and nurses that are going to operate in that field hospital right on the same airplane, so that as soon as they hit the ground and set up, they're able to start operations.
The emergency field hospitals are one of the most significant parts of the Samaritan's Purse airlift response. At their maximum capacity, more than 200 patients a day can be treated, and the field hospitals are usually fully operational within 24 hours of arriving. This is where the combi element of the DC-8 really proves itself. In the past, though, the passenger cabin hasn't necessarily just been used to transport medical personnel, and has had some special moments.
One that I can think of especially would be evacuating Ukrainian refugees out of Poland, taking them to Toronto. They were also some of the most appreciative people you could ever bring on a plane. In many cases, moms and children were either, can I get up and can I help you serve the rest of my friends that are, evacuating with me? We literally had one instance where a mom and 3 daughters got up and played a couple of instruments and sang to the entire cabin. And of course, many of the passengers from Ukraine also knew the song, so they would be singing along and we would just be enjoying it. We were the ones entertained, actually.
The combi element of the DC-8, combined with its range, is mainly why the plane has continued to fly with Samaritan's Purse for as long as it has. When it comes to operating in disaster areas, the simpler the logistics, the better. Ultimately, though, parts are getting harder and harder to find, and although the airplane is kept in immaculate condition, there comes a point where a newer airplane can take things to the next level. Apparently, there is also only one DC-8 simulator left in the entire world, located in Wilmington, Ohio, which is also being retired this year. That combination of factors means it's, unfortunately, time for a DC-8 replacement.
We're proud that we're operating the DC-8 still. It's the last U.S. registered DC-8 that's flying in the world today. However, we are on a path for retirement. We plan to retire at the end of this year, and it's ushering in a new age of transportation for the ministry. So we're just recently purchased a Boeing 767, and that aircraft will be brought online, and we hope to have it in the fall of this year.
The biggest ways it will be easier is just the increased height and dimensions that we're going to have. And that capability is going to allow us to just increase significantly. So like for our field hospital, a tier 3 field hospital, it would take us 3 separate trips on the DC-8 or on the 757, whereas we could do the whole thing on just one trip for the 767, just with the space that we have and getting the people in need.
This plane right here is actually a 20-year plus long dream of Franklin Graham's to have a cargo plane. Well, now we're ushering in a new era because the next generation plane that we're going to have on the property will carry 3 times as much as this plane or our other aircraft can carry in one load. And it can also go further than either of these 2 aircraft can go. So it's going to be a whole new game changer for us going forward. And it's going to be a huge blessing to those that we can reach much faster with many more supplies.
Although the 767 is strictly a freighter and won't directly replace the combi capability of the DC-8, for Samaritan's Purse, the sheer amount of cargo it can carry is worth the trade-off. So, while the retirement of the DC-8 will be a sad event for aviation enthusiasts everywhere, at the same time, it is truly remarkable that this airplane has had a 56-year-long career.
I never, ever take for granted this is the last flying DC-8 in the planet, last and registered. I don't take for granted that it could be the last time I fly, every time I get in. And, it's exciting to think we're getting in this piece of history. It's one piece that we tell everybody at air shows. Take the tour, walk through, because you'll never have this chance again. Right? You'll never have an opportunity to have someone bring a DC-8 to you for you to walk through. It's a unique opportunity. And we get to share not only that piece of history, but the fact that we're doing some really incredible things with this airplane. I got the opportunity to talk at a conference out in California and to talk with people that were operating Boeing aircraft, because McDonnell Douglas is now part of Boeing. And I got to tell them, that we do something very unique with a Boeing product. Well, McDonnell Douglas, but we get to do something really unique. We get to help people. We get to serve other people. We get to help our fellow man. We get to help people in crisis. And we're doing that with a big jet. That's value added to a career of aviation. We're a bunch of seasoned veterans, of seasoned pilots and flight engineers and mechanics and loadmasters. But we're serving a higher purpose and a higher calling, and we're doing it with airplanes. So we get to do what we love for a good cause.
The historical aspect of all of this certainly was not lost on me, and to be able to fly on one of the very last original jet airliners is such a privilege. While I was there, I also got a thorough tour of their whole facility, including the many shelves dedicated to DC-8 spare parts. That also included their 2 spare CFM56s, one of which is ready to go at any given time. The offices throughout the building also have lots of pictures of their other aircraft around the world, not to mention a giant one of the DC-8 front and center. On the day of the flight, all of the passengers met here, mainly Samaritan's Purse employees, all traveling with the plane for their display at the airshow. After a quick briefing of the day and some more introductions, we all walked through the hangar past their 757. This plane is almost a classic of its own too. At just under 40 years old, it was first delivered to Eastern Airlines in 1985. Before hopping on the DC-8, there was one more step.
Prayer is powerful and effective, so we're always praying as a team prior to any mission that we ever undertake. And tomorrow morning you'll be part of this when we will actually gather around the nose of the aircraft and pray before we even go to an air show. Even though it's not a disaster, we want it to be as effective as possible.
With that, everyone made their way on board. However, there is still one more surprise here. The passenger section is in the back, but today I'd be sitting, well, you'll see. So anyway, for the first time in my life, my seat for today was in the flight deck of the DC-8, in the second jump seat on the left-hand side towards the rear. Just to be clear, this was not something I ever expected until I got here the previous day and met everybody, so I was just speechless. I'm not going to let the commentary spoil this amazing behind-the-scenes look, so please enjoy this flight deck footage of us departing Greensboro's runway 23 left in the mighty DC-8.
28 pounds.
Data. 29, 137 set.
Stab and trim tabs.
0, 0, 1.5 nose up.
Check. Flaps and slots.
18, 18 light check.
Yaw damper.
On.
Flight controls.
Go ahead.
To the left, Mark.
Ready? Check.
Neutral.
Check.
Right.
Check.
Neutral.
Check.
And EPI checks.
And here comes the rudder. Left rudder.
Check.
Neutral.
Check.
Right rudder.
Check.
Neutral.
Check.
Flight control check complete. Continue on.
Check.
Runway's clear.
Before takeoff checks below line complete.
Sir.
Today's flight to Dayton would only take about an hour, heading northwest from Greensboro, crossing over Virginia, West Virginia, and then into Ohio, cruising at 26,000 feet. It got a bit cloudier as we left North Carolina behind, but I just could not get over that view out the front. Plus, knowing that this is what I'm trying to do with my life, the opportunity to watch our crew working together was beyond awesome. After unsuccessfully trying to wipe the grin off my face, I had some time to sit back and just be in awe of my surroundings. That's also when I noticed some of the many quirks of the DC-8, including the magnetic compass, which is mounted up on the ceiling behind the captain. To read it, you use a combination of mirrors, one behind the compass to reflect forward, and a pair on the glare shield for the captain and first officer to see it.
The DC-8 has pieces on it that, although they have technical names, we never call them by that. So if we had a hydraulic failure and I had to do some pitch trimming, I wouldn't use the suitcase handles because that's what they look like. I would use the chiclets, which is what they look like. If there is a hydraulic failure, the flight engineer will be working on that unit, which is fondly known as the cash register, because it looks like a cash register. You know, so there's quirky things there. I mean, we laugh a lot in our training and in flight about the many quirks of the DC-8. But you know, it's a very small group of people that have FAA licenses flying the DC-8. I know them all. Most of them work for Samaritan's Purse. So it's a very tight-knit group of people. They're all highly trained professionals. I mean, we all have outlandish numbers of flight time. When you walk in the cockpit of a DC-8, you don't go, wow, that's modern, like a Gulfstream 550 with nothing on the overhead, just a little bit on the center console, or the 7.5 even, which is very sterile. This place is crowded with circuit breakers and levers, and people always say, do you know what everything does? And actually the answer is yes. But they didn't compartmentalize and digitalize and black box everything at this point. But it's a solid airplane.
Meanwhile, in the back of the DC-8, it's about time for a proper look at the passenger cabin. Here, there are 30 economy-style seats with 5 rows in a 3-3 layout. In the last row on the left, though, are 2 larger seats used for crew rest, similar to most domestic first-class seats on American narrowbodies. For comparison, a full-passenger DC-8 62 or 72, that is, not a stretch one, could seat up to 189. Each of those regular seats has lots of legroom, plus a great view of the DC-8's huge windows. Now, those windows are quite large, especially for an airliner of that era, and were a trademark of passenger DC-8s. Apparently, the windows were spaced 40 inches apart to fit first-class seat pitch of the time, which didn't always work out for certain rows in economy. These windows, though, are actually bigger than those on today's A220. Crazy to think for a plane designed half a century prior. In each normal seat, there's a typical tray table that folds down and can slide out. In the seat back pocket is a DC-8 safety card, a ministry magazine, and an air sickness bag. Behind those rows of seats is the galley with what looks like plenty of storage. The aisle continues a bit further to the 2 lavatories in the very back. These actually look fairly roomy, and it's kinda cool to see the slightly different layout of a narrow-body cabin like this, compared to your typical 737 or A320. The overhead bins are also larger than I expected, but wouldn't fit today's roller bags. Lunch was served on the flight too, given that the team on board would be setting up the Samaritan's Purse display once we landed, which would also include part of an emergency field hospital. Up front though, we got to eat after the flight, and lunch was a tasty chicken Caesar wrap with some chips. Dividing the passenger and cargo areas is a solid bulkhead with a small cutout on the left-hand side for movement between the two. Samaritan's Purse had loaded the front of the cargo compartment with some of the cargo they would need for the airshow. During an actual disaster response flight though, you can imagine this whole area being completely full. Even with cargo in place, there's still a clear passage toward the flight deck, with a little aisle along the left wall. At the very front is another solid bulkhead, or more accurately, cargo barrier, and from there, it's a little bit of a squeeze to get up front. I will also point out that the DC-8 is so old, it doesn't actually have an APU built in like the vast majority of modern airliners. That's why an air start unit is needed on the ground to provide enough compressed air to get the engine started, as you saw a few minutes ago. That can present a challenge when operating into airports that have been hit by disasters, but Samaritan's Purse does have a workaround for that.
There's a lot of pre-planning goes into working here. Doing the disaster relief efforts that we do, we have to make sure that where we go, that they can handle this. So you go into an area that's been stricken with a hurricane or earthquake, we have to make sure that on the ground that they have the equipment to handle us: air stairs, pushback, ground power units, air start unit. If they don't, we will bring our own on some of those items. And we have a portable air start unit, ground power unit. The trade-off to doing that is that we take up one of our 10 pallet positions, and we feasibly lose 8,000 pounds of humanitarian aid, food supplies, shelter needs for people that are in true need.
Back up front, the crew was already briefing the approach into Dayton, including the landing performance numbers, which, in a 3-person cockpit, are calculated by the flight engineer. There was some weather ahead as we got closer, so we could expect a couple bumps as we descended. Here's the arrival into Dayton International Airport, landing on runway 24 right.
Then we have to change the VHF.
Spoilers. Negative spoilers. Hold it back. Clear reverse all.
Peanuts. 5,000 remain.
Radar.
Off.
Steamy.
Well, there's our truck.
Okay. I think if you can get past dock, I think we turn right. Keep
Wait,
following.
this guy called me?
Okay. Yep, I got you. I've got a wing walker. Straighten out.
Yeah, but I got really far back.
Okay.
We're good on wing.
So that was how I got to fly on a Douglas DC-8. What an unforgettable experience, not only for the DC-8 itself, but for the sheer generosity and kindness of everybody at Samaritan's Purse. It was so cool to have seen their operation up close, and to have even had the chance to make this video, riding along in the jump seat of a nearly extinct airplane type. I honestly don't have the words. It goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyway. From the bottom of my heart, thank you to Danny, Vetch, Andy, Tim, Mark, Caitlin, Molly, and everybody else at Samaritan's Purse for letting me be a part of this airplane's history. So, I sincerely hope you enjoyed this behind-the-scenes look at one of the last flying DC-8s, and at the people who use it to do such good in the world. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.